Resolutions by state legislatures that merely declare that the state is sovereign will not amount to anything under the law, since they merely declare the obvious and neither prohibit nor compel any behavior of persons within the state in question. However, for example, if a state were to make it unlawful for all persons within the state to accept health insurance from the federal government, and the feds then enact legislation compelling the acceptance of a Medicare-type program by all persons, that would force a confrontation between state sovereignty in an area traditionally regulated by the states, healthcare, and federal dominance in an area rarely regulated by the feds, and the courts would be compelled to decide who's right. Joining me now to talk about the medical aspects of this is Dr. Eric Novak, who wrote a terrific piece in Sunday's Washington Times entitled "The Doctor Will See You." Dr. Novak, welcome to Freedom Watch.
Judge, thank you so much for having me.
I guess you could have entitled your piece, "The Doctor Will See You When He's Ready and When There Are Resources for Him to See You and When You Get to the Head of the Line," right?
You're absolutely right. This is such an enormous story because of how telling it is as this healthcare debate has unfolded. This is the idea here at the Phoenix VA right now, where the budget to take care of orthopedic patients, which is what I do, I don't go to the VA, but I have colleagues that do, we're told that their yearly budget is finished. So they had three choices: either provide care for free for the next 4 months, make the patients wait until January, or they might be able to work out something as long as the doctors are willing to take about an 80% pay cut. And you notice that they phrase it in just the right way. So if they choose not to do it for free or almost nothing, it's really not the government's fault. It's really just the greedy doctors' fault.
Oh, you know, Dr. Novak, that the bureaucrats will never take the blame for any mess that they've made. But is it any wonder that something like the VA administration, totally owned, operated, manned, funded, paid for by the federal government, has a problem like you've just described? Here it is October, and orthopedic surgeons have run out of a budget. Why shouldn't we expect that that same thing will happen if the federal government runs health care for the rest of us?
Well, we absolutely can, and the reason, Judge, why this is a big story, not just because of our veterans who are not going to be allowed to get the care that they thought they were going to receive, but also because, if you remember, as the debate has gone on, the way that the White House and the Democrat leadership has been able to, quote, buy off veterans groups is by saying VA care, the veterans care, is, quote, sacrosanct. We're not going to touch it. Well, here we have, maybe it needs to be touched, because we have an example. This is just one VA. Who knows what's going on at the other veterans facilities around the country? There aren't adequate resources, and the government, it's not their responsibility. It's the doctor's fault for not being willing to work for almost nothing.
You know, I hate to say this, because these men and women are veterans, and if you like your freedom, thank a veteran. But the VA is operated and controlled and managed with all of the efficiency of Amtrak and the post office. The government just doesn't care about the ultimate outcome. Government isn't concerned about producing a product, even a quality product. It just consumes dollars and then takes no responsibility. What do orthopedic surgeons do when someone comes in who needs an injured knee repaired, and there's simply no money in the budget until January, and that person can't wait until then?
Look, that is the exact problem, which is fundamentally what we're talking about here with the healthcare system, is trying to do things to improve access, increase quality, and try to decrease costs. And the problem ultimately with what's being proposed in Washington is that it does none of those things. All it does is move more and more decision-making power from patients, from families, takes it from them, and moves it to Washington, which goes back to what we're doing here in Arizona. Back in 2006, I had the concept, which shouldn't be all that unique, to say that if we don't protect the rights of patients to be in control of their health care decisions, those rights will be sacrificed first and foremost on the altar of health care reform. And unfortunately, in 2009, that's exactly what we're seeing.
You know, the Supreme Court has written a number of opinions, Dr. Novak, and I know you know this, saying that the patient-physician relationship is one of the most sacrosanct in our society, and the government has no business intruding itself in that relationship. Are American doctors trained in American medical schools even prepared for a bureaucrat to say, here's a menu of what you may do, here's a menu of what you may not do, here's the limited budget you have for this patient and this procedure at this time at this hospital?
Well, it's a good point. And you saw this recent Investors Business Daily survey that said that 45% of physicians would consider giving up practice if what is being proposed actually goes through. Now, I'm not here to say, because I don't think it would happen, that 45% of doctors would close their doors. But what it tells you is that healthcare is moving to be a profession where people are not anxious to have their children go into. Look, my dad is an internist and loves medicine. And I grew up and I told my family I was going to go play second base for the New York Yankees when I grew up. And my dad said very seriously, you can go play second base for the Yankees after you go to medical school. So that love of the profession, that desire to have your children follow in your footsteps, that's what we're seeing just being slowly but surely sucked out of the people who practice medicine in this country. And it's very dangerous because, again, this isn't about how much money I make. It isn't about any of that. This is about the right of individuals and families, patients, to be in control of their health care decisions. The very best way for me as a physician to protect my rights is to make sure that my patients have the right to make their own health care decisions. Because in the end, that's how I win. That's how I'm challenged to be innovative. That's how I'm challenged to try to provide better, more efficient, more appropriate care. Not by trying to go to the government for some special treatment for me, but by giving my patient the right to have control and then me doing the best I can to serve them.
Dr. Eric Novak, thank you. Thanks very much for joining us on Freedom Watch.
Thank you.